Hi, my name is Holly Amato, and I have Chrissy Zambas, Farm Bureau agency owner of the Zambas Insurance Group in Washington, Michigan, with me today on the Onward and Upward show. And today we are shining a light on the fact that what you don't know about life insurance really can hurt you, and the ones that you want to protect and provide for. Thank you so much for joining me today, Chrissy.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Absolutely. Okay, so before jumping into our discussion, though, I really wanted to congratulate you on recently becoming an agency owner and really 10xing your business.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's been a super fun journey, and I am having a blast along the way talking to everyone and really kind of diving into all of everyone's insurance needs.
Absolutely. So what has it been like making this decision to take on even more business and being an actual, because so many people know insurance agents, but you're an actual agency owner. What has that been like, making that shift?
So it's been fun and terrifying and exciting and anxiety driven and all of the emotions and feels inside of it. So like I said, I'm having a blast. Really, this wasn't something that I ever really envisioned myself getting into necessarily. I love the entrepreneurial mindset. I love owning businesses and working with people. Insurance wasn't on my radar when I decided to kind of look into it. I knew I was going to enjoy it or I'd like it and I'd have fun. I didn't realize how much I was actually going to love it.
I love that. I know but it's very cool as life kind of ebbs and flows. It takes twists and turns, and then you just find that sweet spot and you're like, this is amazing. You clearly found it. I mean, you're on fire. Totally on fire. All right. So I've really been looking forward to our conversation today. Things have happened in my personal life, and, I've watched people being in real estate in different situations. And I really believe it's going to help so many people who truly just do not know some really important facts surrounding life insurance. And so many times people put it off because no one wants to face the fact that we all have an expiration date. I mean, honestly. So really wanted to get your experience, your expertise in working to educate people in this space.
Yeah. And it's funny. So I'm going to back up a little bit too, because getting into this industry, and it's been about a year and a half. So just, again, enjoying the last year and a half and having fun with it. When I first started in this industry, there was no one that could convince me that I was going to sell life insurance to anyone. Death is a really tough topic to talk to people about. The one thing in life we're guaranteed is that we're not all going to, you're not going to live forever. Unfortunately, I would love to live forever. I know a lot of people don't feel that way, but I would love to be on this earth forever. So the whole conversation around death is just, it freaked me out. I wasn't going to do it. And lo and behold, a year and later, and it's become a huge mission of mine, because there are so many reasons that we all need it. And it's one of those taboo topics that no one wants to talk about.
And we need to normalize talking about it today because, for me, my background, as a single mom for the last 12 years, and I made sure that, I didn't have a lot of money getting started, but I did know this was way before you were in it, of course, but I did know I need life insurance. Like, I need something for these kids because if something happens to me. So it was one of the first things that I did. And I'm so glad I did because, we just don't know. We don't know. And it's a conversation that needs to be had. We can't shy away from it, even if you're married. So for me, I knew, okay, so I'm not married, even though they had a dad at that point. But, I thought I've got to make sure that I have some things set up for my kids. So we really do need to make it a normal conversation, take our heads out of the sand and realize, and I wanted you to give, I know you've got a couple different case histories and maybe something that you can share outside of the scope that people don't even think about. Like when you're going to get life insurance. For me, I was in perfect health actually. And they quoted me one number, but then after my blood work and all the things came back and gave me a better rating, I guess, if that's the right way to say it.
Yes.
So it was less. And I thought to myself, well, I'm really glad I did it now because you don't know what's going to happen, right?
Well, and exactly. And the one key word you said was if something happens to me. And the reality is something is going to happen to all of us at some point, whether it's today, tomorrow, or hopefully when you're 100 years old. And that's our hope for everybody. The reality is, even at 100 years old, are you protected? Do you have the coverage for final expenses? Is that something that is there? Because it's expensive for funerals. And trying to cover that cost. So even if it's just making sure that you're covered in the end, that's a huge part of it. And a lot of people just don't think about that either. And it's funny because going back to your question about the story, I just recently did a video where we talked about the reality is don't wait until it's too late. And when I say that, most people think too late is after somebody's already passed away. And that's also not the case. There's so many issues when you're still alive and living that it becomes too late. And so my two perfect examples, my husband was diagnosed at 45 with prostate cancer, and it was a fluke. We're going to say that it was found. They don't typically do the checks at 45. We were very diligent. It was during COVID, and we were very diligent on some symptoms that he was having, just pursuing and pushing that. And come to find out all these years later, the symptoms that he was having, we don't think was related at all to cancer. However, had we not been diligent on finding that, they would not have done all the testing on him. So 45 years old, he has kids, wife, we have a house and toys and fun things. He is ineligible for life insurance. So hopefully he's going to live till he's 100 years old. The reality is that if anything ever happened to him today, myself and my daughter have a house to pay for still. We have cars, we have boats, we have just different things, her education, all of that. We don't have something to fall back on, such as life insurance, if anything happened to him. So that was one big aha for me that really just kind of said, you know what, everybody needs to do this. And again, if he lives till he's 50, or if he lives another 50 years, great. We just don't have that security of having final expenses paid for, anything else as well.
Well, and I love that you're telling your story and being really transparent in that way, because I think people need to hear that. They need to know that this can happen. No one wants to get a diagnosis like that. And I'm just thankful that he's doing well and, cancer-free and all the wonderful things. But like you said, they will look at it's almost like your diagnostics, right? Like your vehicle diagnostics, that sticks with you. And so what would you say to someone who comes to you and says, how late is too late? Or when should I get life insurance? People are always saying, why would I get life insurance on my kids? And I've heard some really good answers on that, but I'd love to hear your perspective on ages and what to do.
So now is always the best time. Getting approved, going through the process now is always the best time. As you continue to get older, more likely that you're going to have medical things that pop up. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily anything it's not a death sentence. It doesn't have to be anything that's horrible. I mean, if you get a diagnosis, you have different things. As silly as it sounds, I couldn't get life insurance because I went into the doctor, wasn't feeling great. Actually went into the emergency room, wasn't feeling great, just had cramping and different things like that, had an ultrasound done. And they just wanted to do a repeat ultrasound on me just to make sure that the things that were in there were gone. And I couldn't get life insurance because they wanted me to go back and get another ultrasound first. So it is literally nothing that's going to affect my life. It has nothing to do with anything that's scary or tragic or anything else. Usually 99% of the time it resolves on its own. And so I couldn't get it either. And that's just another example. So getting it now is the perfect time. As crazy as it sounds, again, talking about putting life insurance on your kids can be very traumatic for parents. And the reality is the younger they are, the more opportunities they have. And it's not just about them dying. The reality is especially as kids, we have a great product that allows them to have cash value so they can actually pull cash out. It grows in like huge numbers. So you might take $100,000 life insurance policy out on your child. And again, the hope is that they live until they're 100. At the end of it, they've accrued $700,000 that are now left as death benefits to them for their family. So now they're leaving a legacy. So there's other reasons that it makes sense to do it. It's not always just about death. But again, I mean, unfortunately, it's also a reality and a tragedy that you never know what could happen to your kids. I mean, there's opportunities or reasons that something could happen to them. And then imagine not being able to grieve, not being able to take the time that you need to be able to really just take that time off to be able to focus on your family and your needs and your feelings as well. So
that's huge. And, when you mentioned that product, you said 100,000 and it can pay in benefits. And can you explain a little bit? I don't think I've ever even heard about that.
yeah, so it's our premier whole life product. And really what it is it's just obviously on that one, the younger you are, the quicker you start it, the less expensive it is. With the kids, because we can't do term on them, it is a whole life product, which means for the whole rest of their life, if that payment is paid, that premium is locked in. They're not paying any more for it. So if your premium is, let's just call it $100 just for the fun of it, which that's actually really high for the program if they start it young. But let's call it $100 and they start with that. For the rest of their lives, they have this product that will be available to them for $100. It starts at $100,000 cash value. It continues to grow in value as they get older. So eventually, when they're 30 years old and now they're moving into a home, they're getting married, they just want to take a little bit of money out for a down payment on a home. They are having their first child and they want to do something with the nursery and make it extravagant. They can actually pull money out of that account and have the cash in there, but the death benefits also grow significantly throughout their lifetime. So it's a very good product that is something that we are definitely talking to a lot of parents about with putting on their kids, because the premium is typically extremely low and the benefits of the death benefits, the cash value, and the dividends continue to grow as well.
So I'm assuming they have to be under 18. Obviously, you probably have to sign up. What's the age? Could you do it at 17? Is there like a cutoff for that?
Yeah, so you can do that program at any age.
Okay.
Obviously, the younger you are, the less expensive your premium is.
I love that. So something else that probably a couple of years ago, I never would have thought of this because I have 3 kids. And again, the last thing you want to think about, right, is the death of a child. I think that's probably the worst thing that could ever happen to a human on earth. So someone had mentioned, though, especially if your kids are in college and you are maybe signed up for that Parent Plus loan and you're on the hook for the repayment of that loan, if something were to happen to that child, it can be used in that way. Have you had experience with that?
I have not had experience with that.
Okay.
No, I have not.
But it just made sense to me. Like, the life insurance will be able to pay off, you're going to have these loans that you have to pay.
100%.
You co-signed for them, right? So just another reason that, would be terrible. But somebody brought it up to me when, my middle daughter went off to school and said, hey, you really should consider this, because they knew someone, unfortunately, that it happened to. And I was like, I would never even think about that.
Well, and that's the whole thing with where it stinks. It's not a conversation you want to have. It's not something you want to think about, but it is a reality. And that money, I mean, that's the thing. When we sit down and talk to someone, we have a life conversation, which sounds funny, but it is LIFE. And we're going to talk about the liabilities. What liabilities do you have that need to be covered and paid off? What are the things that we're looking at that could be an expense that needs to be covered if you were to lose any one person in your life? Mm-hmm. What is the income that you're going to be losing? So obviously with kids, you're not really looking at the income side of it, but as a parent, what income? So if my husband and I, something happens to one of us and we lose one of our incomes, how does that impact us? Obviously with my husband, he does really well. He makes more money. We've got that. If I lost his income, that would be a huge blow to me. So we talk about how much income do you need to replace and how long do you need to replace it for? How often do you ever really think about that? You don't. It's not a conversation that you're like, if something happened to my spouse today, I probably would be okay with 5 years of their income replacing, or 6 or 10. You don't think about those kinds of things just in everyday normal life, but what do you need to cover to continue to live and sustain where you're at currently? Final expenses is another one. That's the F part of it. So what are the final expenses? I mean, right now, funerals can cost $20,000, $25,000 just to bury someone. Again, and after this conversation and people see this, they're going to see often what's that reticular activator syndrome or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to see how many GoFundMes you see where people are asking for help because they can't afford to bury their loved ones. And if you can't afford to bury them, you can't afford to probably grieve. You can't afford to pay off the mortgage or the vehicles or take some time off. So that's another piece to it. And then the education and extras. If you have kids, do you want their education to be paid for? Do you have extras? Do they have dance? Do they have hockey? Are they in sports? Do you want them to be taken care of? Do they need to be taken care of by a family member, someone else? How do you make sure that your income is being replaced for that person to be able to take care of them? So it's just a lot of conversations go around it and the reasonings, and then what fits for each person is going to be individually assessed based on these conversations.
So yeah, really important conversations, because you start with life insurance and then you're looking to build, obviously, the portfolio of all these things that could happen. And so also if someone's hurt on the job, I'm sure you have something to work with that situation. They're not dead, but they're not able to work, right?
So, and that's the other thing. So that's a great point too. A lot of people think because they have life insurance through work that they're covered. And life insurance through work is great as long as you're working for the company at the time that something happens to you, which also sounds horrible. But if you get sick and you can't work, you get into a car accident and you can't work, the company shuts down, they let you go, you decide to take a better opportunity somewhere else, that life insurance that policy typically does not go with you. So it's good for the time that you're there and that you work for the company. But if anything changes, then that becomes an issue. So getting life insurance outside on your own is critical as well, because it is just another facet that you don't have to worry about. If you get a job today, you take their life insurance and you're healthy and doing well and you decide to wait, 10 years from now, you get diagnosed with cancer, you get diabetes, you have blood sugar issues, anything like that you're now trying to figure out, getting life insurance is going to be a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult to do.
Absolutely. And as we're talking about, you kind of alluded to the different types of insurance. There's whole and there's term. So for me, when the kids were young, I believe I'm on a term, and you're going to have to help me because I don't know the right terminology, but I don't know if it's 30 years or what it is, but someone like me, when I get to the end of that, I don't want to not have life insurance, but now I'm thinking, wow, it's going to be a lot more expensive for me at that age. What do you typically recommend for someone like that's in my situation? Maybe like, what would be the best thing for me to do at this point? Now that all my kids are adults, well, 18, 20, and almost 22, I still want them to be protected, and I'm going to keep the policy unless you would say I shouldn't and change it. What would be the best thing to do?
And that's where we really sit down, and it kind of goes back to that life conversation I was talking about just a minute ago. It's sitting down and figuring out what exactly are your goals. Again, do you have an income that you need to replace? With adult children, you may not need to worry about replacing an income, but what are the liabilities that need to be covered? Where are you at? We look at, what's your mortgage? You have a mortgage on your house. If you have a mortgage on your house, how long is it good for? That's where your term policies are good. Are there things and debts that need to be paid off in a specific time frame? So if you have a mortgage for 30 years, a 30-year term is a great term to have, just to have that mortgage protection. If you've got some credit cards and different things that need to be paid off, maybe like you said, some just different debt, maybe 20 or 10 years might be good. If you have kids that are 16 years old and you've got a couple more years left with them being in the home, the shorter term might make more sense. So it's really looking at, with older kids not in the home, do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want to leave them a little bit of money? Are you really just more looking for final expenses to be covered? So that's kind of where we look at with life in term or with whole in term, is that's the conversations that are very important. No one individual is going to be the same as any other one individual. And it's really kind of just sitting down. We try to high level and say, okay, let's look at this first of all, as if there was no cost to life insurance. What is the most important things to you? But then we sit down and then we start to kind of go through budgets. So we know, okay, you want to do this, and this. These are our goals. Here's what we're able to do. Because one of the biggest things is one of the easiest things to let go, unfortunately, is also life insurance. So if you're making a payment towards something and suddenly times get tough, you've got to let a bill go. For people, a lot of times life insurance is going to be the easiest one, especially if we put you into a product that we already know you're going to struggle to pay. So we want to make sure that it fits within your budget. Typically, term is going to be less expensive, and then whole life is going to be a little bit more. So we kind of just have those conversations, and it's very specific to each individual.
So let's say I walked into your office and had an appointment. From what I'm hearing is you're basically going to look at me, everything that I lay out for you. I love that it's not a one size fits all. So you're going to basically, I'm going to come in and I'm going to talk about what my goals are, what I want to do, my family situation. For someone like me as a single mom, and now unfortunately my kids just lost their dad. Well, the situation for me is even more so important because I'm the only parent left. So even though my kids are older, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, no, I still want something for them because, I do want to have a legacy for them. So I appreciate the fact that, it's not a drive-through with you, that you're taking all those things into account, which I don't think everybody does that. I think it's really something that you meet people like yourself and you can instantly note that you have that compassion, that underlying compassion, but also your real drive is to see people protected and covered and, feel good about what they have for their family.
Right. Exactly. And it's funny. I was talking to one of my mentors, and I will say she put it so perfectly. And this is the tough reality. We get up in the morning, we have breakfast, we look at our calendar, we've got a meeting scheduled, maybe getting our hair done, we've got a lunch with our friends. Nowhere in any one of our calendars does it say, get up, have coffee, check my emails, have my meeting, go get my hair done, get into a fatal car accident. It's just not something any one of us have scheduled into our calendars yet. It's a reality that it happens. And that is one of the biggest things. I mean, we're super quick to put insurance on our cell phones. Gosh forbid that, the screen breaks or we don't have access to it for 10 minutes or, things like that. We're required to have home and auto insurance. I mean, that's just a requirement. So people do it. But no one's going to ask you, hey, when you get pulled over, where's your life insurance proof? We need to see your proof of life insurance. So it's so easy to just kind of forget or not think about. Another story I always tell, my daughter, so I have 3 grandbabies. They're the cutest in the whole world. As a grandparent, you can get life insurance for your grandkids as well. You can have that all set up. And we went through the whole process with my daughter, got the grandkids all approved. And my daughter was like, I'm debating if I want to wait and maybe get a better policy so we can spend a little bit more, do a little bit more. And we had already had every single thing approved. And my daughter started to kind of debate whether or not she wanted to do this. And we found out, or they were questioning whether or not my grandson was having seizures all of a sudden. And so fortunately, he did not, but that was just another reminder. If that was something he ended up being diagnosed with, and had we waited, it would be a really hard time to get him approved and to be able to go through that. So she called me and said, you know what? No, let's go. So she got a policy for my grandson. I got a policy for my grandson, and we made sure that they were all covered.
And these are good conversations to have and to let people know because of that mom guilt where you feel like you want to take care of your kids, but you don't want to imagine something happening to them. But I can only imagine how you'd feel had someone talk to you and you're like, listen, this is what you need to do, for exactly what you talked about. Or, hey, your kid's going off to college. Here's something you might want to keep in mind. You're not thinking about all of these things. And you don't want to be like, well, I'm not that parent that's thinking about losing a child. But at the end of the day, there's so many things, unfortunately, in this world. And especially if you have multiple kids, I unfortunately know people who have lost kids in the absolute worst, and they struggle just to get up some days, and they've got to take care of their family. So not having that financial burden, at least is something,
Exactly.
It's something. And to know that you were responsible and you didn't put your head in the sand, but you said, no, we have to look into this.
Right. 100%. Yeah. Nope. It is. It's definitely something that we need to get a lot more visibility around. It's definitely something that people need to be open with and have the conversation. Like I said, I never in my life thought I would be passionate about life insurance. And again, it doesn't have to be just when you die conversation. There are other benefits to having it. It's just peace of mind. It's offering comfort. I saw somebody post the other day that no one's ever going to say, no, thank you, I'm good, I don't want this check. I appreciate it. At the end of it all, the reality is that is one of the first things most people will ask after someone passes away. Oh my gosh, did they have life insurance? I mean, it's a huge conversation that people have after the fact, but no one wants to talk about it before the fact.
It is. It's a tough one. And, I'm divorced, obviously. I work with a lot of people in real estate who are getting divorced. And that's one of the things, as you're going through that process when you have minor kids, they'll put it in there that you both, they'll say you have to have life insurance, but neither one of you says, let me see your policy, but maybe we should. Maybe we should make that where it's, I would like to have that conversation with you. What do you have for the kids? This is what I have for the kids. Just something that these are conversations where we just have to have them because we're looking, we're taking care of the people that we love.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's the thing. I mean, going through even, with the whole, that's another reason just from an agency standpoint, as an agent in general, having conversations with your insurance agent constantly. And when I say constantly, we're not talking to our clients every week. But having a conversation once a year, touching base with them is such a great thing. I know we reach out to all of our clients. We, even my old agent that I had before I got into the business, I still get calls from them just to reach out and have a conversation. I will tell you, it is critical because things do change. And kind of, you and I were talking about this. Just making sure, has anything changed on your home? Has anything changed on your auto? Have you added any new drivers? Do you have life insurance policy? If you do, is it still enough? Did you get a promotion? Did you get that raise that you were talking about? Did you get that huge job offer? Now, instead of having to replace a $1,000 income, we're having to replace a $1,000 income. So having conversations with your agent, and then the conversation you and I had, even updating your beneficiaries, making sure that that's always something that's top of mind. Going through divorce, sometimes those are things that you need to change. You may not want your ex to have that beneficiary status anymore. Maybe you do. Maybe you co-parent, great, and that's something that you want for them. But just making sure your kid's getting to an age where they're now your primary beneficiary. So there's so many different things that change within anyone's life in any one given year. Being able to update that and stay on top of that is super critical as well.
No, that's huge. And I have heard many a story of, someone passing, they were newly married and didn't update that beneficiary. So having someone like you paying attention, and I know you're very active on socials, I'm assuming probably a lot of your clients are friends that you keep in contact with and you can see, I see that you just got married. Congratulations, all the things. And then, by the way, do we need to update that beneficiary, right? Is it going to go to the new spouse? Is it going to go to the kids? Do you still want it with the ex-spouse? So that's huge too. So staying in contact, it's a different level of service when you have a professional that is making sure that you are covered, your family's covered. Because like you just said, our lives change frequently.
Absolutely.
They don't just stay. I mean, someday I may get remarried and I think about this, and I'll probably talk to you about it when the time comes. I don't know that I'm going to change anything. Quite honestly,
right.
Maybe a little bit, but pretty much everything the way I have it now, I want my kids to be the beneficiary of these things. And I can't imagine that a man would have a problem with that, but you don't know, right? These are just conversations I'd probably have with you instead of, friends or other people, because what are all the logistics of this? What do I need to know?
Oh,
yeah. What do I need to know?
Oh. Exactly. Yeah. What do you want to accomplish with it? What do you want it to do? What is the end goal for you to make sure that if you have this in place, that it is doing the right things for you and your family? And that truly is the biggest piece to it. is just assessing goals. And today's goals could be very different than the goals in 5 years and the goals when you're 100. And just being able to have that, I mean, if, you think about it as a kid, you get it on, it sounds crazy, getting it on your newborn baby. Now they've got insurance. It's incredibly low. The cash value is insane. We prayed that they live till 100. Guess what? Their great grandkids are going to benefit. It's not just their kids, it's their kids' kids, and maybe even their kids' kids' kids. It just can go down the line, and there's just so much opportunity for that.
There is. And I'm just hearing it's not a set it and forget it thing. It's a constant movement of what are the new things going on in life. So I'm learning a lot today, and obviously I'm not taking notes. So I'm excited I can go back and rewatch, because there are some really good points that as I'm working with clients, I want to be able to say, hey, you need to call Chrissy, not just because you're getting home and we need to get it insured quickly before we close, right? But there's some other things. And I'm assuming, I haven't even asked you this question, but I'm assuming that when someone works with you, I know, and I'm not saying this just because I know you, but you saved me a boatload of money. Now I feel like I'm doing one of those commercials on my insurance. I have everything with you, and the umbrella and the home and the auto and the kids and everything. And you gave me some information that was more accurate than what I had. And you really dug deep to help me out so that I could save a lot, but still have everything that I need. But someone newly coming to you and wants to kind of pull all these things together, I'm assuming that they might get a better opportunity, maybe pulling everything in. I don't know if there's a...
Yeah, there is. So obviously bundling definitely helps. So if we're talking people having home, auto, if they have a commercial property, if they do umbrellas, if they do life insurance with us, the more you add, the better the discounts are. We do give that. And exactly what you said, again, it goes back to the conversations that we have with our clients. We're pretty darn competitive. We've been saving people quite a bit of money. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay. Not every situation's the same. Could have two people that literally live next door to each other. They could compare, we have exactly the same of everything. The reality is that behind the scenes, they don't. And a lot of people don't understand that or see those things. They don't, that's just something that it is what it is. But we do dive in and have the conversation. One, we never want to compromise insurance. We do talk a lot about what does liability mean? What do you have? Again, when I first started, one of the conversations they wanted us to have with people is we talk about your financials. And at first I'm like, I'm an insurance agent. What do you mean talk about their financials? Like, they're never going to tell me what they have in a 401k or their equity in their home or what their income is. Why would they tell their insurance agent that? And the reality is that we're trying to protect you from any assets or things that could be taken from you if something were to happen. And again, I love stories sometimes just because it puts it into real perspective. I had an issue with someone that I knew that was hit by a drunk driver, and 100% the drunk driver's fault. They were off on the side of the road. It was 35 miles an hour. The driver was going over 85, never avoided the accident, and was in a vegetable state for the rest of his life. And his family sued the state of Michigan, this person, and the company that they worked for, and they still won money. So it is possible to not even be your fault and to have that kind of thing happen. It's unfortunately the society and the world that we live in. So having that protection to make sure all of these things are protected. If you get into an accident, you hurt a little baby, an old grandma, somebody comes after you, they're going to want to look at your assets and your income and all of the things. So we have this conversation with people. And so we dive in, and if we can help them, great. If we can't, at least they understand what they're getting. They understand what they need to be protected from and for. And we have that conversation just to make sure that they're getting the right coverage. On homes, one of the things I feel like we hear a lot is, well, my home isn't worth this, but you're covering my dwelling. My home is worth $400,000, but my dwelling's at $500,000. Well, the value of your home versus what it would cost to reconstruct your home, two totally different things. So we have a lot of these conversations with our clients just to get them to understand, what are you getting covered for? What does it look like? Why do you need this coverage? And then they can make the decision of whether or not it makes sense for them, but at least we're having these conversations.
Well, you're educating people. And I find when you educate people, you give them the opportunity to make a good decision instead of just saying, why is my insurance going up? Well, the answer, well, everything's going up. Or, you hear these canned answers and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. When you can go and you can educate and take the extra time, that helps people to feel confident in what they're doing and moving forward.
I actually had a client yesterday, since you said that asked me, why is my price going up? And I said, well, we talked about like one of the things is deductibles is a huge thing right now. Deductibles seem to be going up overall in general. So low deductibles are driving higher premiums. And so they're like, no, I want to know why insurance is going up. And I said, I would love to be able to give you a reason. I don't really have a reason. I mean, there's multiple, some of the obvious, the price of materials goes up, the price of labor goes up, the price for all these different things. But then you've got to look at vehicle ratings and you need to look at, there's just different things that all factor into it. It's not, again, just a one size fits all. And that's where we start looking at it. It would be great if we knew the secret sauce of why and what's going to drive it and how to like avoid that so we don't have to pay as much in premium. But it stinks. I mean, it is something that is there, but having those conversations and understanding, you know what, sometimes paying that extra $10, $15, $20 a month might not be the thing that you want to do. But the reality is again, come the time that you need it, you're going to be grateful that you have it.
Right. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what's coming for us. And, as we close out, as I'm listening to you talk, what made you choose Farm Bureau? Because I know that there's a lot of options that you have. There's a lot of options everyone has. And I'm hearing you talk and I'm putting together, it's just they're giving you, I'm perceiving and experiencing, because I'm using you, that the rates are better, that you're able to really help people, which is going to bring more business, probably products. But what was it that really said, okay, I'm putting my flag here and I'm going with Farm Bureau?
So I'm not sure if I love this question or don't love the question. So the funny thing is I didn't really even explore any other options. Okay. So I had been kind of working with a few Farm Bureau agency owners and was working on them a little bit with marketing and social media stuff. And literally my husband came home one day and was like, you should look into insurance. So I called one of the agency owners and said, hey, what are your thoughts about this? What do you think? And he said, get in here, let's talk. And I went in and ended up meeting with the managing partners of our region, and they were amazing and fantastic. And the culture just felt right. A huge thing for me is culture and really that camaraderie and company feel, but also having that flexibility and freedom to do some of the things, as I mentioned, with my husband, with his sickness or cancer. My daughter's had a lot of medical issues. Being able to have some of that flexibility and freedom to be able to do the things that I needed to do, but also to be able to focus heavily on my business. And I will tell you, after joining, I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. They are truly a great company that is very big on education, being a client advocate, educating, being that trusted advisor. It's not always about winning the sale. It's about making sure that the clients are truly covered and properly covered. And just having that culture. I mean, they do a lot of different events where we're in training consistently. We are getting awarded for our accomplishments, recognized. And not that that's always super important, but it is. It's nice to have a company that recognizes your efforts and the things that you're doing. And I truly couldn't imagine being anywhere else. I don't know anything else, but I don't want to either. So it just kind of happened that way. And going in and meeting with everybody, it just instantly felt right.
Well, I think you made the right choice, because I have been with many different companies over the years, and I was floored. I think you saved me $900 just on my home, and it was something like $150 a month on my auto. Yeah. So that's not a small savings, especially now with where we're at. Won't jump into the whole economy of the world, but when you can save money and have a product that you feel like is actually better suited for you and feel better about it, it's amazing. I have peace of mind personally.
This year already, and we're only into February, we've actually had a couple clients. One, we've saved $6,000, and that is not an exaggeration. And quite a few that we've saved a couple $1,000s. So I mean, I can definitely tell you multiple people that I have worked with that we have saved well over 1,000 to 2,000 minimum a year. We're very good with teen drivers. So I do get a lot of teen drivers as well. And again, I mean, we're pretty competitive. A lot of the people that we're saving, I will tell you, we're not compromising insurance. And quite a few of them, we're actually even giving them better coverage, which is nice as well. So
that was my experience. So, and I even had added that umbrella, which I don't think I had before. So, I could talk all day about this, but I won't. I won't bore everybody with my experience. But, people want to say that insurance is so boring. It's really not. Maybe it's who you're working with. Maybe it's who you're working with. Maybe it's because you just don't know all the things. But, everybody should be taking notes on that product for the kids that, can turn into cash when you go. I mean, you and I are going to talk more offline as I'm talking to people because I work in real estate. I didn't know about that. So I'm learning something amazing right now. So again, I don't think it's a boring topic at all. I think it's just who you're working with. See, Chrissy.
Exactly. Being in real estate, and that's the thing I will tell you, I did mortgages a long, long, long time ago. And back in the day, everything was mortgage protection. Like we have mortgage protection insurance, you used to get it automatically. You are offered it at closing. It's not offered anymore. I mean, you don't see it. It's very hard to get. There aren't companies that just do. And the reality is if you have a mortgage, getting a term life policy to cover that should something happen to you is one of the best things that you can do. And term policies, for the most part in general, are very, very inexpensive. But at least it covers that dynamic that if something happened to you within those 20, 30 years, your mortgage is paid off. And so it's critical. Anyone buying a home should be in conversation with a life insurance agent to at least get that to cover those expenses. I mean, that's a huge expense for most people. It's probably the biggest expense any one person's going to have. Having that coverage is huge.
It is. And when you go toward retirement age, like where I'm at, I'm thinking, okay, in 20 years, I would like to not be having to pedal so fast, right? So what are one of the big things that I want? My house paid off, and these other things put in place and, the Roth IRAs and all the things and, some investment accounts, obviously, insurance and life insurance that's going to cover everything. But it's just the financial pieces really do fit together. So I just applaud you for doing that and helping people because, again, there's a lot that people don't know. Once we're a professional in a specific area, we feel like everyone knows some things, but they really don't.
Really don't. And we definitely break it down. We take time, we answer. One of the biggest things I will say that I actually refuse to tout on any of our marketing is that we're available 24/7. And the reality is that we're pretty much available 24/7. I give my clients, every single one of them have my personal cell phone. I answer, I joke, but it's the truth. I got 4 calls on the 4th of July. I was out in the middle of the lake and I took the calls. I answered them. I didn't have answers necessarily, but I will answer my call. I will take it. My partner is out on a cruise right now with his wife, 25-year anniversary. And he's still literally texting us, hey, this person just called me. Can someone reach out? Like he's making sure that as he's getting things or emails, he's forwarding them over to us to make sure that they're taken care of. He's called some people while he was on his cruise just to stay in touch. So we truly do care about the people that we work with. That is a huge thing for us. And it's something that we focus on.
Well, that's because you're just a rock star.
Thanks, Academy.
Well, you are. And, I just want to thank you again for your time today. Thanks for joining me. All this value and expertise that you've shared. Before we go, please let everyone know how they can reach you because they need to be giving you a call.
Yeah. So I give my cell phone, like I said. So my personal cell phone, I am okay with the world having it. It is 586-747-8190. I'm just going to clarify. I'm great with the world having it, but if you're not in Michigan, I can't help you. And then my email is my first initial. So Steve for Chrissy dot Z like in zebra, A like in apple, M like in Mary, B like in boy, A like in apple, S like in Sam at FBINSMI.com. And that's FB for Farm Bureau, INS for insurance, MI for Michigan.com.
Okay, fantastic. And I know you're on all the socials.
I
So
am.
what I'm going to make sure that we do at the bottom in the info here on the episode will be all the ways that you can reach Chrissy online, offline. Apparently she's available 24/7, but please don't call her at 4 in the morning.
You can call me at 4 in the morning. If
Or
I'm
answer.
awake, I will answer. If I'm not, I won't.
That's fair. I feel like that's fair. Thanks again, Chrissy. And we really just want to thank all of you for joining us today. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like our episode, tap that bell for notifications so that you're first to know when the new episodes of Onward and Upward podcasts are posted. And for that, we say, be blessed, everybody.
Bye.